Yes.
Okay, this will be Danny Hayden.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Variance 25, 1, 2, and 3 on South Wyoming and Platinum Street. The applicant for this is Fort Six LLC and Fort Impact Fund LLC. Their proposal is to locate 3 fourplexes on existing uptown lots, varying from the provisions outlined in the Butte-Silver Municipal Code 1727 CM, the Commercial and Light Industrial Zone. According to Section 1727, the CM, Commercial and Light Industrial Zone, new residential uses are prohibited and requires a minimum lot area of 4,500 square feet for new developments. The applicant is seeking approval to construct 3 1,350 square foot fourplex residential dwellings on vacant lots ranging from 3,400 to 4,100 square feet in the CM zone. Being that the lots in question are located in the CM zone and not directly adjoining a residential zone, no front, side, or rear yard setbacks are required. However, the proposed development must abide by all building and fire codes. Despite being located in the CM zone, the surrounding character of the existing neighborhood is residential. The proposed project would emulate historical lot use and achieve goals outlined in the 2021 Comprehensive Plan and Regional Historic Preservation Plan. This is an aerial view of the location on the corner of East Platinum and South Wyoming Street. It would be lots 11, 12, and 14. This is another view. Lots 11 and 12 are on that first parcel. There's an existing fourplex structure on lot 13, and then lot 14 would be the other vacant parcel where one of the fourplexes would be located. A variance must not be contrary to the public interest. Zoning districts are designed to complement one another and promote cohesive development for neighborhood aesthetic density and compatibility of uses. The required minimum lot area for new developments is 4,500 square feet. The lots in question are 4,138, 4,138, and 3,485 square feet. The proposal is consistent with the prevailing character of the neighborhood, but potential impacts to adjacent property owners must be considered. One major impact could be on-street parking congestion. However, the fourplexes will feature 9 additional parking spaces behind the structures to help mitigate this potential issue. I also have a graphic that will help visualize this later in the presentation. The proposed density may slightly be increased beyond historical account, but not enough to alter the existing character or capacity of the surrounding area. The Regional Historic Preservation Plan has characterized this neighborhood as residential. In the past, this area was home to many mine and railroad workers and their families. The comprehensive plan has also classified this area as mixed use. Both the past and future development ideals for this specific area are supportive of residential development. A majority of residential structures in the uptown area were built on what today would be considered substandard lots. These structures include duplexes, fourplexes, and in some cases, sixplexes. Current requirements for setbacks, lot area, and lot widths are often not present or achievable. In conclusion of law, the addition of the 3 fourplexes will provide much needed residential infill development in an area that appears to be predominantly residential despite the official zoning designation. The proposal is consistent with that described in the Uptown Edge place type of the comprehensive plan, which blends more neighborhood scale commercial uses with traditional multifamily development. The proposal would not be contrary to the public interest. The variance must not result in, or must have not, the title will result in unnecessary hardship. The hardship may not result from a condition created by the applicant. Since zoning was adopted in 1978, the prescribed development standards adopted within areas not formally zoned were not generally limited in available land for development. In Uptown Butte, it is not uncommon for residential and commercial uses to exist within the same block. The area of the proposed project is primarily mixed use in nature due to the existing compact structure and limited parcels available for development. The 3 existing lots range in size from 3,400 to 4,100 square feet. The standard lot size in the CM of 4,500 square feet. The majority of lots within this area fall below this standard, including the lot with the existing fourplex at 615 South Wyoming Street. It's located on a 3,484 square foot lot. A hardship is present. It may be reasonable to allow for residential development in the CM zone on substandard lot sizes. This proposal is consistent with the existing density patterns, historical land use, and comprehensive plan, and the Regional Historic Preservation Plan. So it must also be in spirit of the zoning ordinance. It appears public health, safety, and the general welfare of the surrounding property owners would not be impacted by the applicant's request to locate the fourplexes on non-conforming lot sizes within the CM zone. The requested variances are compatible with historic development patterns of this block on South Wyoming. It would appear literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicants of rights commonly enjoyed by other tracts in the same district because the proposal emulates the historical density and development patterns of the existing neighborhood and that of Uptown Butte. A unique set of developmental circumstances exists when the designated zoning of a specific area opposes the existing predominant uses, in this case, residential dwellings in the CM zone. Facilitating infill development consistent with existing uptown development patterns would not be providing special privilege denied to others in the same district. The variance request maintains the spirit of the zoning ordinance and meets the intent of the existing neighborhood. Without reasonable cause to prohibit varying from the regulations in the CM zone, denying this variance would be unfairly applying regulations to some property owners and not others in the same district. It appears that if this application were approved, the spirit of the zoning ordinance would not be compromised by the construction of the fourplexes on substandard lots, provided that developments meet all building and fire code regulations. This is a visual from a Sanborn map, which was used for fire insurance from 1891. It actually shows that lot 11 and lot 14 were the first 2 lots to be developed on this block, and those were for residential purposes. This is as the lots look now. You can see the existing fourplex. And then on the right-hand side would be lots 11 and 12. On the left is lot 14, and then this is another view of lot 11 and 12 from Platinum Street. This was a video provided by the applicants that kind of show what the project would entail. These are also graphics provided from the applicants. I don't know if that's this would be the view from South Wyoming Street. You can see the first 2 fourplexes would be the newly constructed ones. The third one down would be the existing fourplex, and then on the other side of that would also be a newly constructed fourplex. This is the side view from Platinum Street. You can see an access point between the single-family house and the fourplex, which would provide access to the additional parking spaces. And this is an aerial view, which features the parking spaces in the back. In conclusion, The intent of the zoning is to prevent incompatible land uses or activities from impacting the health and safety of adjacent uses. The proposed infill development does not appear to be contrary to the public interest, as infill development, affordable housing, and greater density emulates historical patterns and are expressed public priorities of the 2021 Comprehensive Plan. The priorities bear a hardship owing to conditions unique to the property. The proposal meets building code standards to maintain safety while allowing development of non-conforming lots. Granting the variance provides relief from requirements enjoyed by others in the same district. Planning staff's recommendation is to approve the variance applications based on written findings of fact as described in the staff report with appropriate conditions. Alternatives, you can deny the application based on findings of noncompliance or continue public hearing on this application. And that is the conclusion of our presentation.
Thank you, Amy. Myself, I really like the idea of infill development, keeping with the character of existing neighborhoods in uptown Butte. That's how I look at it.
Just curious, it looked like you're maybe using a modular or prefab product. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so since Butte has a short building window, we felt that modular construction is probably the best fit, to get these units to market as quick as possible. So once we, get through the approval process and get our permits, then the next step is going to be the foundation. And then while we're working on foundation, site prep, and everything else, the companies we've identified are in Salt Lake. So they'll be pretty much building these things out where everything's included all the way up to the appliances. They come in on a truck, we set a crane, we drop them, we set them, there'll be 4 modules. So what you're seeing here is 4 units. So each module will be a different unit. It's you know, we have a choice where we could do like a siding or something that matches and looks decent, but it's not, you know, to save the cost. The important part is to make sure they're feasible. So we want to have that brick facade in the front, you know, add the decks afterwards, and a lot of those are clean sections as well to where they're assembled. And then, you know, the units themselves will be a little bit shorter, so we'll put a parapet on as well, so we'll have that historic character. And then we'll put a roof on, and then, you know, landscaping, everything else. And I mean, everything's kind of already set up. All we're doing is putting together the mechanical, electrical plumbing, you know, through a chase, through the crawl space, and then they're ready to go. So the goal is to have them up and running within, you know, 3 to 4 months.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Well, again, I like this idea. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I mean, without any public opposition to it here tonight, it kind of seems like a no-brainer. They, at least in the 3D rendering, look great for that. I mean, that neighborhood has had some tough times and still does. So that's definitely a step in the right direction, I think, and since they've already fixed up the neighborhood a little bit already, I trust that they'll do this, and at least got to give it a try. So I'm okay with that. And
Any further comments? Shannon?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would echo Tyler. Nothing further, in agreement as well.
Does anybody care to make a motion then?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We approve variance 25, 1, 2, and 3.
I would second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for special use 25-2, and it's to place a pet crematory at 345 Ash Drive. The applicants for this special use are Andrew Fleming and Teresa DeGaulis, and the applicants are seeking approval to operate a crematory on a 3.8 acre lot in a R1S zone, and the property is located at 345 Ash Drive. Per requirements of Section 1738-180, special use permits, uses allowed, crematories are specifically listed as special uses in any zone with an approval by the Zoning Board of Adjustments. The special use process provides for a review of public input and measures of potential impact of the proposed use on the surrounding neighborhood and compatibility of the proposed use with the adjoining neighborhood. Crematories are specifically listed as a special use allowed in any zoning district, provided that the prescribed use is in harmony with the other uses permitted in the zone and not found to be contrary to public interest. To provide the board with information about the proposed special use, the applicant and planning staff have responded to the established 20 questions outlined here. This is an aerial and a zoning view of the property. Outlined in red is where the crematory would be located. Here's another aerial view. As you can see, Ash Drive is here. The structure to the rear was identified as being not occupied at this time. And then across the street are 2+ acre lots with single-family housing. This is a site plan of the actual property where the crematory would be located. This is the residence here, and over by the pole barn would be the furnace for the crematory. The location and character of the property and surrounding buildings. The property in question is located in the R1S or single-family suburban residential zone. It was built in 1966 and is located off of Highway 2, just south of the Butte-Mooney Airport, and is about 3.8 acres that are surrounded on 3 sides by about 75 acres of mostly flat, undeveloped land. The property does have a residence, a pole barn, a greenhouse, a shed, and a chicken coop on that parcel. There is a structure directly to the north that the applicant has stated is unoccupied, and the properties to the south, again, are 2 or more acres of single-family residence. This is just a picture of what the furnace looks like. Any substantial changes of land use in this neighborhood. Since 1978, the adoption of the zoning ordinance, there have been no significant changes to the immediate area, and there is no neighborhood plan for this area in Butte-Silver County. There are no proposed plans to alter or make changes to the existing fencing, screening, or landscaping. The property is landscaped in a fashion that is typical for residential dwelling, and there are no proposed plans for signage or additional lighting. Proposed vehicle access and circulation. Access to and from the property is via Ash Drive. Existing parking is consistent with the residential area, and it is in place and appropriate for the residential use. The applicants have stated that no parking changes are intended for the project, and the business will not increase traffic to the property or to the neighborhood, as the applicants will be using their own vehicle to transport carcasses and the ashes to and from the property. Clients will not be going to the property for drop-offs or pickups. And there are no existing sidewalks, curbs, or gutters located on Ash Drive. It's a private residence, and the applicants have also stated that there will be no pedestrian circulation on the property. The applicants have also stated that there will be no pickups or drop-offs at the residence. Transportation of the carcasses and ashes to and from will be conducted by the applicants, so no other nuisances should be, there should be no other nuisances. Nuisances related to emission, smoke, smell are discussed in Section 10 of the Public Health and Safety. The crematory is environmentally friendly. There's a secondary chamber placed above the primary chamber. This chamber assists with managing all of your emissions, smoke, and smells, and the equipment used for the crematory is produced by Fire Lake Manufacturing, which has developed products that meet emission standards in the most densely populated parts of the country. The applicants did submit to the Montana Department of Environmental Quality, or the DEQ, in December 2024, and on February 3rd of 2025, a preliminary approval was obtained along with notification for public comment on the DEQ's website. Staff did speak with animal control, and they had stated that there is nothing in their ordinance that would prohibit this type of business in this area. They had just recommended that any carcasses be placed in the furnace immediately or kept in or out of an area where anybody could get to it. They suggested that they be kept in a freezer until they can be picked up and taken out or they keep them in a freezer until the animals can be picked up and brought to the cremation. Conditions requiring the applicants to disclose the storage location of the deceased animals shall be provided with the business license and home occupation submittal. Staff also spoke with the health department, and we were informed that approval from the DEQ would need to be acquired prior to the operation, but they have no immediate concerns with this operation being conducted on the premises. Staff recommends that this is a condition of approval prior to operation as well. The comprehensive plan place type is rural residential place type. Rural residential place type is primarily single-family residential housing. It also provides the opportunity for small-scale agricultural, hobby farms, raising animals for personal use is common, limited neighborhood-scale commercial, and active and passive recreation activities. The character of these areas is eclectic, with the limited design standards applicable and live and let live mentality applied to their personal properties. The proposed use will not adversely affect nearby properties or their occupants. The development of the property as residential complies with one-family suburban residence zones. Crematories are allowed in residential zones as special uses. Staff believes that this project is properly conditioned, should have a minimal impact on the nearby properties. That the proposed use will not adversely change the use of the property in question. No additional traffic will be coming or going onto the property. The applicants will be picking up and dropping off the carcasses as well as the ashes. The crematory is about 4 feet by 3 feet by 2.5 feet and situated 80 feet from the west side of the property line and 30 feet from the pole barn. Hours of operation are usually limited to the hours and operations of veterinarian clinics and animal shelters. The use of the structure is not changing. The use will remain residential. Therefore, the building will remain compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Conditions of approval. Prior to installing any new signs, the applicant must submit a sign permit. The applicants will be required to meet all building, fire, and health code requirements of Butte-Silver. Prior to final approval, the applicant shall provide approval and proof of permitting as required by Montana Department of Environmental Quality, and the applicant shall submit written approval from Butte-Silver Fire Marshal, a Butte-Silver business license and a home occupation permit will be required, and the applicants will need to provide an updated site plan or declaration identifying where the deceased animals will be stored on the property as part of the business license and home occupation permit. Based on the information provided in the application, staff's analysis of the review criteria, and any public opinion as it relates to the criteria, the board must determine if the applicant has presented evidence to the satisfaction of the board that said undue detriment will not result from granting of special use for this crematory, Section 1738-160, special or conditional use permit. Decision of board requires staff to refer the application to the board within 15 days of the receipt of the application, and all requested information, the board shall, within 60 days, deny the applicant and give reason for the denial, or approve the application, and the zoning officer shall issue a zoning compliance permit. That concludes this presentation.
Thank you, Joella. Do any staff members have any questions? Staff members, any board members have any questions of the staff? Okay. Mr. Fleming, could you come forward and identify yourself for the record, please?
Hello, my name's Andrew Fleming. My wife and I are going to try to start this business. We believe it's needed here.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the information wasn't on there as far as, I've talked to the health department and the fire marshal, didn't have any concerns about it. And it's not going to affect, it shouldn't affect any of the residences around us at all. It's very discreet. It's environmentally safe. And it's a very small unit. It's, like I said, it's very discreet.
Okay. Do you have any further information you'd like to provide to us?
That was it. I
Okay.
covered that, the health department, oh, you did, okay. I guess that was it.
Okay, Mr. Fleming, there are certain conditions of approval that have been recommended by the planning staff. Have you reviewed those conditions?
Yes.
Yeah. And Joella also read them.
Yes.
So do you have, are they acceptable to you?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Very reasonable.
okay,
Department, they already put it on the website for 45 days. They didn't have any concerns whatsoever. They gave us the preliminary approval, and they said to get hold of us. There's one lady over that runs it. If there was any concerns, that she could get hold of us immediately. She has not. Everything that I know is that everything's been approved.
okay. I'll see if any of the board members have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Fleming, how many animals do you plan on processing?
Well,
You know, what's an average day look like in your business plan, I guess?
You're probably going to do 2 to 3,
Okay.
maybe 4. It all depends on animal control. They were very interested. It depends on how many vet offices, the current vet offices that we spoke with, they sent them all to Bozeman. And that was part of it, is that they're using a lot of fuel to move these animals back and forth, and it takes a lot of time. When we're here local, we can come and do it in a day.
And would you do those all, you know, if you were to do 4 in a day, would that be all at once or like just sporadically as they came in?
You can do them all at once. In that chamber, it depends on how big the animal is, but it'll have, inside the burn chamber, you have these stainless steel pieces that go in that separate the animals, so that you know whose ashes are whose.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
I
Shanna?
just have a question. There was some discussion about like where that they would be stored.
No, we don't store the animals. We will pick them up the same day that we're gonna process them.
Okay, so if you're like at capacity, then you just say no, or,
So we can actually process them.
okay.
Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Is there anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application? I'm not hearing anybody. Is there anybody present that would care to speak against this application? Ma'am, if you could come forward and identify yourself by giving your name and address.
I'm Debbie Garber, and I live on 315 Terra Verde Drive. And it's not really opposed to it, I want to understand it better. Does this change the zoning? If they move, is that now fair game for someone else?
No, ma'am, this is not a board where we change zoning. That would be up to the Council of Commissioners.
But the variance, could someone else take the variance later?
No,
So it'd be a one-time shot if they go what they do, and if they don't, they don't.
yeah, I imagine that's the way we typically do it, am I correct? Yeah, one time. This variance is only for Mr. Fleming and his wife. If they sell it, the new people would have to come in and ask for a variance.
I would point out that you may have had a bigger turnout, but the sign to let the community know about has been face down for most of the time it's been out. So you aren't getting a real fair representation of what the community is about.
Okay. We appreciate that comment. You may want to speak to your commissioner about that. Is there anybody else who would care to speak in opposition to this application? Yes, ma'am, if you... Ma'am, could you come forward and identify yourself?
Yeah, Jody Galiga, I'm his neighbor. I was just curious, how do we burn them? Like, what, do we use wood or coal or? Propane, okay. Yeah, I was just curious, that's all. How we do this.
It's a good question. I was kind of wondering that myself.
Yeah, I was wondering if, yeah, okay, so propane, okay.
Thank you. Anybody else who would care to speak in opposition to this application? Sir, if you could come forward and identify yourself?
My name is Mike Garbrick. I'm Debbie's husband, live at 315 Terra Verde.
Okay.
I'm a retired engineer. I have a few questions.
Now, this is for your comments, sir. Not questions, but comments.
Would like to know what size animals operation is going to work on. Is there some sort of storage facility for carcasses that are in the queue, if you will? What provision for complete combustion at the beginning of the burning process so that you don't get fumes and potential virus or other detrimental material going into the atmosphere of this area that's a residential area. And I presume he'll have to, he said it was propane, and so he'll need a storage facility for propane, and what sort of provisions for containment of potential bloody episodes associated with this material. And those are some of the points I think that you folks should address in your decisions.
Okay.
And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for your comments. I'm going to have, not at the moment, first I'll see if there's any other comments in opposition, and then you have a chance in what I'll call the rebuttal stage to address the concerns of this gentleman. Is there anybody else that would care to speak in opposition to this application? Yes, sir, if you could come forward and identify yourself.
My name is Sam Ortega, I live in the area. I'm just thinking that we have a lot of people out there that don't know about this, for starters. And also, we have people that walk that route a lot, so there's a big concern. I just don't know the answers to those, the particulars on the crematorium.
Mm-hmm.
And also, is there gonna be, is this, are you voting on this right away, or are we getting more people's involvement, or?
Okay, under the code, we have to respond to this application and vote on it within 60 days. More often than not, I talk with my fellow board members and see if we're going to vote on this tonight or if they want to use the 60 days. Sometimes we do. More often, we don't.
Okay, then, I think my last question is, a pet crematorium, is that just dogs and cats, or is that pet elk and whatever else, you know what I'm saying? I would like an answer on that.
Yeah, elk are big animals.
So, that's all I have to say. I've met Andy.
Yeah.
But, you know, we just have questions.
Sure,
We live out there quite a bit, so,
you bet.
you know, we're concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Anybody else, so we make sure that Mr. Fleming has a chance to address all of the concerns? Not hearing anybody else. Mr. Fleming, if you could come forward and address those concerns in your rebuttal?
So it's a small pet crematorium, so it's only for small animals. Large animals are considered like a horse or cow or something like that. It's just like a cat or a dog, like that. As far as the blood is concerned, chemical levies, that's not anything more danger than any propane tank at your house. Exact same. Just a small one. And what was the other question? Oh, fumes. So this is it's got a two-stage secondary burner in it, so it'll put out way less. You won't even hardly even see anything coming out of it. It's almost pure air. And Department of Environment, they check that out. It meets and exceeds everything. So you won't. This crematorium has been put in like cities, so it meets and exceeds all that the emissions. So, what was the other one?
Well, there was a question about whether storage of the animals on site.
So there is no storage of animals. We pick up the same day, we burn them, and they go back. That's it. It's pretty simple.
You pick up the animals yourself?
Okay. All right.
Was there any other?
As best I can remember, you've covered it all, but if board members, do you remember any? I think you covered it, sir. Thank you. What would you like to ask Mr. Ortega, because the process has now been completed?
Okay, no, my concern too is also, does that affect the water table in any way out there?
Well, the Department of Environmental Quality would consider that for sure. So I would suspect that it would be approved by the DEQ if there's any possibility of an adverse effect. But that's what I think, and I'm often wrong, and I'll ask the staff. Maybe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things. I just want to let everybody know that out on the Butte-Silver website, on our zoning page, there is the complete staff report along with Mr. Fleming's application. He has a lot of detail in there regarding the processes as well as the furnace. That's all out there for public interest. So you're more than welcome to go to that. If you have any questions, you can just give us a call. We can send you a link to that site. Part of the conditions of approval for this application, one of them is that they do have to get permission from the DEQ, which will answer anything pertaining to the water, as well as fire marshal will have to go out and approve everything, and air quality for DEQ. So those would be part of the conditions before the individual could even get his business license to operate the pet crematory. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Joella. Okay, is this your last question, ma'am, or comment?
I was curious if he's ever been around one, or if he's taken the manufacturer's comments that it's going to burn this clean. Has he ever seen one burn? Have you ever smelled it? I mean, my wood stove has a double chamber for handling it, and I can certainly smell my wood smoke. I've looked online at some of these pet crematoriums, and they sound wonderful, and they may be. I've just never been around them. I always find them a little apprehensive and Sally's word for it, if I've never seen it. Have you been around them operating?
Okay, address your questions to us, and then,
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
that's okay. Just, we try to limit back and forth.
I realize that.
Yeah. If you could come forward again and address that particular concern?
Yeah, I visited the company in Minnesota. I flew out and visited. He did not have one burning, but they listed it as about, I think he said 80 to 90% pure, so it exceeds anything that, like I said, your wood stove is going to put out a heck of a lot more than this. They probably won't even see anything. I'm not sure what she saw, but it sure wasn't a firelight crematory.
Mm-hmm.
It's very clean. I made a point to make sure that we wanted it, we don't want anybody that, we want them to be aware of it, but we don't want people to see that we don't want black smoke coming out or anything like that either. So we want it to be clean.
No, absolutely. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, everything is now being closed, and we were going to proceed to voting on the application. So does anybody care to make a motion?
Comments or questions from the board?
Board comment.
Well, we're going to have public discussion before we vote, yeah. Board discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
Okay.
Do you mind if I?
No, go ahead, Stephen. Thank you.
Get it?
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, so I guess I'd like to just make a comment on this. Is one of the other hats I wear in my other life is I'm an air quality engineer. And having just recently in the last couple months permitted another incinerator here in Butte, not a crematorium. But Montana has very specific rules in statute on how these incinerators are permitted and reviewed, and you have to do a health assessment that will model the emissions coming out and make sure that there's no adverse health effects at the border of the facility. And if the DEQ has released this for preliminary review, that means that it's passed that analysis and is a clean facility. I've permitted multiple ones of these, and the emissions that come out of these are very minor. There's more emissions from the combustion of the gas than the burning of the actual material in there. So for that reason, I have no issue with this. And just to roundabout on the water quality question, these units don't use any water, so there shouldn't be any issue with the water table or water quality, for my opinion.
Thank you for your expert comments.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Any further comments? No. Man, the guy's an expert.
Yeah, I'm an expert in a lot of stuff.
Garrett, Shanna, you have any thoughts? Okay. Then does anybody care to make a motion? Oh, first of all, before we go that far, do we want to proceed with this matter tonight? Or do some board members think that we should wait up to 60 days?
I do feel comfortable voting tonight. I do have a little bit of concern that some neighbors might not have had their voices heard. I also would hate to hold this up any further, but some of the testimony said that the sign wasn't very visible and stuff, and I know it is a little sparsely populated area in terms of Butte, but that's my one concern. But I think I'm okay to vote with Steve's testimony and the answers from the applicant. I do feel comfortable voting.
I agree with Mr. Schaefer. I don't have an issue moving on tonight. And I also agree that, we want to make sure everybody's had a chance to heard too.
Okay. With regard to notice, that's something the council of commissioners has to deal with.
Yeah, we really have no say in that. Though.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody care to make a motion then?
Well, since I made the biggest speech tonight, I'll make the motion.
The most expert speech.
I'll make a motion to approve special use permit 25-2.
I will second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Stephen. Thanks, Shanna. Okay, Mr. Fleming, all 5 votes are for the motion, so that means that your application has been approved, and you will be receiving a letter from the planning staff to that effect. With regard to anybody that wishes to have this reviewed further, and petition can be filed with the district court within 15 days. Am I right on that? 30. See, I'm wrong. Within 30 days of our decision, with day 1 starting tomorrow. And you'd have to get a lawyer or figure out how to do it yourself by filing the petition in the clerk of court's office here. And then the district court can review it according to its schedule. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fleming. The final matter on our agenda is a permit application by Kendra Burks and Calvin Ferguson with regard to a child care center. Are the BU folks okay? All right. Joe, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you. This location is at 900 South Washington for special use 25-3. Applicant Kendra Burks. The applicant seeks approval to locate a child care facility in an existing commercial space in the M1 light industrial zone. The property is legally addressed as 900 South Washington. The special use process provides for review of public input, a measure of the potential impact on the proposed use on the surrounding neighborhood, and compatibility of the proposed use with the adjoining neighborhood. Professional and office space and daycare facilities are recognized as special uses allowed in any zoning district, provided that the prescribed use is in harmony with other uses permitted in the zone and not found to be contrary to public interest. To provide the board with information about the proposed special use, the applicant and planning staff have responded to an established 20 questions. Here is an aerial view, 2 aerial views, showing where the property is located. As you can see, it's located in the M1 zone, and that zone lies between a C2 zone and an R4 zone. Here are 2 pictures of what the property looks like. On the left is from the Washington Street side, and the image on the right is kind of from the corner of Washington and Tecumseh, which is the other street that this property is on. The property in question is located in the M1 light industrial zone and has recently been remodeled. The property features a reception area, 2 private office spaces, a small shop area, a fully handicap accessible restroom, and adequate outdoor space for a play area and parking options. The property is primarily surrounded by residential dwellings with a few commercial spaces located to the west and a vacant lot to the south. There have been no significant land use changes in the immediate area since the original adoption of the zoning ordinance in 1978, and there's no known neighborhood plan for this area. Proposed fencing, screening, and landscaping. According to the image, the blue boundary represents the applicant's plan to incorporate a 5,914 square foot fenced recess yard. The yard size is in accordance with the Montana State Law Child Licensing Department, which requires 75 square feet per child. The applicant also mentioned in their application that there is an approximately 6-month waiting time for the fence. However, the Montana State Department for Childcare has approved a temporary snow fence until the actual fence can be constructed. The yellow boundary represents the applicant's plan to incorporate a fenced garden area. This area will contain fruit-bearing trees and vegetable garden boxes, which will be utilized as part of the children's agricultural curriculum. As for landscaping, the applicants plan to plant grass, small bushes, trees, and flowers. Given the property's historic industrial use, it is advised that the owners request environmental sampling from the Butte-Silver Residential Metals Abatement Program and utilize above-ground garden boxes with imported fill. Proposed vehicle access, circulation, and parking. Parking options appear to be sufficient for the proposed use. The green boundary represents the applicant's plan for designated parking, drop-off, and pickup locations. Access to this area will be provided via Tecumseh Way on the south side of the parcel. The front entrance to the single-level property appears to be ADA accessible. Planning staff recommend the applicant make available specific information on the property's handicap accessible features for future clientele. Potential nuisances. Potential nuisances associated with this proposal would be increased traffic at peak drop-off or pickup times and increased noise from children playing outdoors. Outdoor playtime will be managed by setting specific timeframes and using sound absorbing materials in playground construction. However, both these instances should not lead to nuisances or impacts greater than what commonly occurs in both residential and commercial neighborhoods. The use conforms to the objectives of the comprehensive plan. The property is within the live-make neighborhood place type in the comprehensive plan. This place type contributes to economic diversity by providing a place for individuals to live and work in traditionally mixed-use environments, but in close proximity to traditional uptown neighborhoods. The proposed use conforms with the objectives of the comprehensive plan. The proposed use will not adversely affect nearby properties or their occupants. Impacts created by increased traffic and noise should be minimal. Hours of operation will help minimize any impacts on neighboring properties. The proposed parking options will help to alleviate the potentials of patrons parking in front of neighboring homes or creating any traffic congestion. The proposed use will not adversely change the use of the property in question. The established character of the existing neighborhood would not appear to be impacted by this proposal. There appear to be no circumstances in which would prevent the utilization of the property for the full ranges of uses in the M1 zoning district. Conditions of approval. So the business must meet all applicable building code, fire, and health requirements. All necessary approvals must be granted prior to the applicants receiving final business license approval. They must meet parking requirements according to the Butte-Silver Municipal Code 1740. Daycares and nurseries require 1 parking space per employee and 1 space per 6 children. The applicant shall be limited to the occupancy levels as determined by the Butte-Silver Building Code and Fire Marshal. Occupancy levels shall be determined prior to business license approval. The applicants will be limited specifically to the business as stated and approved. Any further business expansions, changes, or building expansions will require further review by the zoning board. In conclusion, based on this information provided in the application, staff's analysis of the review criteria, and any public opinion as it relates to the criteria, the board must determine if the applicant has presented evidence to the satisfaction of the board that said undue detriment will not result from the granting of the special use permit for this daycare center. The decision of the board requires staff to refer the application to the board within 15 days of receipt of the application. Within 60 days, the board shall deny the application and give reasons or approve based off hearings from tonight. And that is the conclusion of the presentation.
Thank you, Hayden. Do any board members have any questions of the staff? Could the applicant come forward and identify yourselves and your case?
I'm Andrew Burks, this is my husband. And if we were able to get the daycare, we are calling it Emerald Pines.
Can you, maybe, I can't, there's a red button that pops up when you, there you go.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay, no, I do the
If
same
we
thing
were
often.
to get permission granted tonight, we would call the daycare Emerald Pines. And we used to have a daycare about 6 years ago in Bozeman. But life happened and we ended up moving back this way. And so we have actually been searching for a building that could potentially be what we are looking for, because Emerald Pines it's more than just a daycare. It's our dream. We do have kids of our own, so our kids have been in and out of daycares that are kind of like dirty, or the staff are just not very professional. And I've worked in some of the best daycares and some of the worst, and so I feel like I know what parents want, what kids need, and that building would be a perfect fit. It's very open, there's plenty of natural light, kids would be safe, and we already got the pre-approval from the child care licensing department, and the fire department came down and they did an inspection on the building as well. They said that it looked very safe. They seemed kind of enthusiastic about it compared to the other places that they have approved in the past. So yeah, I'm hoping we can get it.
Okay.
Want to add anything? Oh, okay.
Okay, ma'am, sir. The staff talked about certain conditions
Yes.
that they would recommend that we require you to adhere to, should we approve this application? Are those
Yes.
conditions acceptable to you?
They are, and so the building is currently for sale, and we're looking at just renting it, but the owner, if we were to get the permit granted tonight, we're looking at doing earnest money and then trying to buy the building in a year, after we've been operating for some time. So we haven't really met with him yet, but like for the parking spot, there is already some pavement in front of the garage door that we could use for a handicap spot. I don't know if he is going to be willing to do anything parking lot wise and fence wise, or if that's going to be on us, since we are potentially going to be the new buyers, the new owners. So that's kind of all on the fence with the real estate agents, but we had to do this tonight first to see if we can proceed further, if I need to go try and find another building.
Okay, that's
yeah.
understood.
But we would definitely come to you guys when it is time for the fence. We know that permits have to happen. We wouldn't start anything without permission, of course, anyways. Same thing with the parking lot and the garden boxes as well with the dirt. And if we're not allowed to plant trees, that is fine. But I do think some boxes could be kind of fun for the kids, because it teaches them a lot of things, a lot of life skills, how to take care of themselves. And then it gets the other parents interested, and sometimes they don't know how to grow, vegetables. So it's helpful for them too.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to see if any board members have any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one question. Would you guys be acceptable to a condition of forcefully getting the RMAP soil testing done, just since we're going to have little kids there?
Yes, of course. Yeah, we would
it's
love
a-
that, because we have
Okay, and
a,
I think they would even prioritize you guys just based on what you guys are doing. I don't know that, but if we could add that as a condition and you guys could be okay with that, feel okay with this, so.
And we're also probably going to have to already put topsoil on it to grow better grass. I do have a partner of mine who does dog cleaning duties and outside duties, and he's actually going to go through with a magnetizer and get any metal shavings out or anything like that, because it looked like it did originally was looked like an auto parts shop. at
Yes,
one
there's
point.
been,
Yes.
there's been construction companies in there. I know there have been some auto type things too,
Yes.
probably off the books. So if you could just please do our map testing, just
Exactly.
give us a little peace of mind for the little kids too.
yes,
Just
of
that
course we
area
would.
of towns could be suspect, so. Thank you, guys.
yes, of
Thank-
course.
Any further questions? Make sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'll see if there's anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application. That'd be you, ma'am, since you're the one that's left. I'm with him, he just left. You're with them, okay. That's very nice of you. And so you would not be opposed to it, of course. I would not be opposed. Okay. Okay. Not hearing anybody sort of in opposition or sort of in support of this application, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion.
Mr. Chairman, as we've talked about before, it's hard to find childcare in this town, especially
Yes.
quality childcare. Anyone who can even give me some lip service that they're gonna try gets my support. So I think these guys seem serious about what they wanna do. Like we said, I would like to add the condition that we, RMAP testing is required before we do anything moving forward. But other than that, I'm great with this. I think it's a good fit, so.
Okay, well, you're gonna be the motion guy when this happens, but first I'm gonna see if, so you don't forget
Do
that.
it.
You
I'll
have
be
it in
ready.
your head.
Okay.
First, I'll check and see if there's any
Oh, please, yes. I'd
other
love that.
comments? None? Okay, I agree with child support, child care is so important in this community. So it's wonderful that people are trying to do it.
Yes, and I know it's also something I could never do, so.
Okay, before we proceed to voting, this is again another matter where we have up to 60 days. Does
I'm good.
everybody feel comfortable in deciding tonight? Okay,
I'm comfortable.
tonight it
moving
will
forward.
be then.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, we approve special use permit 25-3, adding the required condition that RMAP testing is completed with results before moving forward in any fashion. Would be my motion.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'd second it, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
with the conditions as outlined and as by staff in addition to Mr. Schaefer's.
Okay, thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Shannon. All 5 votes are for the motion, so your application has been approved, and you will be receiving a letter from the planning staff to that effect. And I hope it goes through for you. Good luck.